My name is Josh Miller. I own Riverstone Kennels, and I've been training gun dogs for more than 16 years. I have field trialed, I've hunt tested, but at the end of the day, I'm a duck hunter. You might find that the duck in our Duck Dogs podcast is spelled uniquely. The UK stands for my British Labs. I love my British Labs. I love what they offer me, both as a part of my family and the high motor in the field. As you're going to find, I have some pretty special dogs. Follow along in our podcast series here as we talk about both in the field hunting and in the field training situations that will hopefully help you progress with your dog at home. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Duck Dogs. Big thank you to Eukanuba. Eukanuba Premium Performance Sport 3020 is the blend that I feed my dogs, and we also feed premium puppy to our puppies. And so overall, top to bottom, great premium food. I would highly suggest it for anyone out there looking for a high-quality premium food to put your dog on. Great stuff, Eukanuba. Also, thank you to Lucky Duck. If you have not seen the 5-star crash test rated kennels, go check them out. They are by far the safest way for your dog to travel. And I'm traveling right now, and it's just such a significant peace of mind knowing that they're as safe as I can make them. So go check them out at luckyduck.com. Also, thank you to Sitka. I have been living in my Sitka gear for the last week, 8 days, and I mean I haven't even been able to wash them, and I'm extremely comfortable. So I'm a big believer in this stuff. www.sitkagear.com. You will not be disappointed. And thank you to Gun Dog Supply, your one-stop shop for all your hunting and training needs. And I'm going to be seeing those guys here shortly. Kind of crazy. Waterfowl season kicks off here very quickly, so I'll be hunting with the Snells all over. So great company, great people. So man, I've had a week, and so first off, I want to apologize for a little bit of our tardiness. We've been a little off. I'm traveling, and when I'm traveling, it just makes things a lot more difficult. It's harder to sit down in a quiet area and do these recordings. It's hard to get my recordings to my editor, and then once it's to him, he's great, getting stuff done, but he's also traveling too. So there's just a lot of dynamics here, and so we're trying to do the best that we can. But I'm sitting back reflecting on an awesome week, and I'm going to tell you about that week. But first, I want to recap the dove hunt. So our dove hunt in Kansas here finished off great. You heard Whitney on with me in the last episode, and I cannot tell you how special that is for me to have Whitney go on these hunts. And Whitney is she is my biggest fan. She's my biggest supporter. I wouldn't be able to do the things I do today without her, and incredibly talented. I mean, not only as a huntress, but I just don't think you'd find many, if any, better people when it comes to whelping and raising puppies. I mean, it is incredible the detail she puts into that. And so to break her away from that and get her on hunts with me, it's always special. And I don't want you to think that that she's like breaking away is because she doesn't want to. It's just she's juggling an incredibly busy schedule with puppies, with our 10-month-old son, with our 2.5-year-old daughter, and with me traveling, and it just is very difficult. When we started dating, she had not hunted before, like you learned in the last episode, but it was maybe didn't. Might have been an Instagram story. Either way, if you didn't know, she wasn't a hunter when we met. And what she really got into first was archery hunting. At the time, I worked at an archery shop, and she would come in. I bought her a bow, using every discount I possibly could because I didn't have 2 pennies to rub together, and got her a women's model bow. And man, she would sit there and she would shoot and shoot and shoot and shoot. And she always said that it was just, a way to spend time with me, because it was either I was hunting or I was working. And so when I was working was her time that she could be there, and I'd be, stringing up bows, or replacing limbs or cams, or paper tuning, whatever it was, and she was 10 feet away, shooting target. She got really, really good at shooting her bow, and she has killed one deer with her bow in the last, it'd probably be 10, 11 years, she's been bow hunting. And it's not because she hasn't had opportunity. She spent, before our daughter was born, I bet she was in a tree 5 to 6 days a week. I mean, she hunted harder than any guy that I knew. And she just had such a standard. She was not going to kill a deer unless it was mature. And so that one deer that she killed, I think it scored 164, 165, somewhere in there. I mean, just a stud of a deer off of our farm, the best deer that we've had on our farm. And, and that has been, that was what she did. And then, of course, babies come, life changes. But, getting back out in the field with her is really, really special to me. And so that's one of the biggest things from last week that I'm able to take away from and really enjoy. But I was really happy with our dogs across the board. You're getting back into the season. Naturally, you think there's going to be some rust. We didn't have any major issues, that I saw. We didn't see, anything that, was concerning, anything that we're like, oh, we have to work on this. I felt like the only thing that came out of it for me, now that I'm rolling into teal opener down here in Texas, this coming weekend, the only thing that really stuck out to me on this was we had so many birds that were, easy retrieves, short marks, but yet those doves being so small and them having to hunt the area, they really had to, lean on their natural side. And what I kind of saw the first day training back, after 4 days of that, was that I saw that my dogs really wanted to use their nose. They really wanted to trust their instincts, especially like if I, line them up for a blind. It wasn't major fighting, but I just saw some of the repercussions of that. And you've heard me say before that, hunting season will always unravel training to an extent. And this is the kind of stuff that I mean. So what we've been doing here these last couple of days is really working on getting back to just running lines and some handling and just being crisp and just kind of making sure that we're not going to have a bad habit off that hunt. And they've handled it great, but I just identified that as we got to the end of the hunt of, hey, I saw that they were successful with this. I saw that they were really wanting to use that natural side. Let's bring it back. A lot of people, if you follow us on Instagram, there was a story that I did with Strike that I sent him on a blind, and I stopped him, and I used what I call the hunt whistle. Now, the hunt whistle is something I learned from overseas, and the hunt whistle is you stop them in the area that you believe that bird is, and you give them the hunt whistle, and my hunt whistle goes, tweet, 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 tweet. What I'm trying to say, because I start with saying right there, and so I'm just trying to replicate that with a whistle, tweet, tweet, right there. And you saw Strike break down and hunt until he was successful and found that bird. And I had a lot of questions come in on that, because it is pretty abnormal, I'd say. None of the guys that I trained under, did that. It's not something that we do over here, with tests and trials. You want to handle them to the fall. But the problem is that in a hunt, you really, especially if you're in an area you don't know and terrain that you can't see real well, you don't know where every bird is. You ran out 3-4 birds, you can have good marks on where you think they are. But if you don't know for sure, how can you handle your dog right to that spot? Right? So that's where the hunt whistle comes in, is I get him to that spot. I'm like, golly, I think it's right there somewhere. But he's looking at me going, all right, Dad, where do you want me to go from here? And I'm going, I don't know. I think you're pretty dang close. I just don't know where to send you. That's where that hunt whistle comes in. And what I'm telling them is use your natural instincts, turn on that nose, hunt, and then they find that bird and they're successful. From a hunting standpoint, it is an incredibly valuable tool. And so oftentimes what people say is, how do you get your dog to do that? I'll give you the quick version of it here, which is, what I like to do is I like to use tennis balls, for this. And you can use, you can put them in like a pillowcase with wings and feathers if you want to. You don't have to. But especially if your dog loves tennis balls, what I do is I bury 5, 6, 7 tennis balls kind of in an area. I walk the dog into it in the middle, and then I almost use my hand as like almost like I'm washing a window in a circular motion. If you can kind of picture that, or if you like you're turning a small steering wheel, going either right or left. I guess I go clockwise. It would be, not that it matters, but I'll just go right there, right there. And my dog is gonna have no idea what I'm talking about, right? And he's gonna look at me going like, "What kind of cast is that?" I just go right there, and eventually what happens, some dogs you have to be more patient than others. Eventually what happens, you see that nose start going because there's a bunch of tennis balls around him. He doesn't know that, but there's a bunch of tennis balls buried around him. And so all of a sudden and then all of a sudden they start, and I'm good, right there, good, right there. And just let that natural side come out, and all of a sudden, and then he picks up a tennis ball. Good. Bring him back. You've got a bunch more tennis balls there, right? Tweet. Right there. Be successful, pick it up. That's how I start, teaching that. Then I have to, kind of graduate from there. But to get you started on that is a great way just to get them to understand that. And then eventually I take out the right there. And that's when I go do the doo-doo with the whistle. Doo-doo. Because, everything, whistle carries further. Whistle's how we communicate with them with that whistle stop. And so I just like having that whistle. And you do have to kind of practice as a handler on how to blow that and how to deliver that message and how to be consistent with that. But I've actually found that I'm not a P-less whistle guy. It has nothing in particular. I just, that tone in my ears, it's like nails on a chalkboard. And I know that I have sensitive ears from all the shooting that I've been around. But for me, that's why I prefer a P'd whistle. I do think that this, tweet, is easier with a P-less whistle. But I do with a P'd whistle all the time, so it's not that you couldn't. But it's a great command. It's one it is going to make you more successful in the field because, when you get that dog to that area and you stop them, especially a bird like a dove. Doves have very little scent. They're a very small bird. It's very difficult, to get them on there. Now, if you're handling your dog to a pheasant or a duck or a goose, not maybe as important. But I promise you, if you've been in the field with your dog, I promise you have had times so you can reflect back on this. Like, geez, that would have been a great command to have. It's just one of those great commands. I would highly suggest anyone to really try that. Shoot me a message on Instagram if you guys have any questions on that, but it's a great command. We had a lot of questions on that. So dove hunt wrapped up, and I want to kind of switch gears a little bit and tell you about what I did from there. So I have a hunt coming up, teal opener in Texas. So I went from Kansas to Texas, and there was a week in between there that I could have gone home, but then it was going to be 10 hours down to Kansas, and actually it ended up being more like 11. So 11 hours down to Kansas, 11 hours back to be home for a couple days. Then to drive 21 hours down here to Texas, and then do this 2-day hunt, drive all the way back. And so I was already over halfway to Texas, so it didn't make sense in my mind to go back. And so when I was planning this trip, I'm like, gosh, what am I going to do? What am I going to do in this time? And so I have someone who has become a very good friend of mine. His name is Chance, and Chance and I became friends through dogs, as many of my very close friends have. And Chance had called. He was looking for a puppy and wanted to get on the list. And we started talking, and there's just some people you just click and connect with, and he was definitely one of those people for me. And he wanted to see the dog, so he came up, and when he came up, he came up and saw the stud dogs, and again we hit it off even more. I was like, man, you want to stay and hunt, and so he hunted. He had, being from Texas, he had never killed a greater, Canada. He had killed lessers, but not greaters, and he killed the absolute biggest honker that I have ever seen. This dude's head was like a dang softball. It was unbelievable. His neck, I mean, it was like a Pringle canister. It was just a freaking giant. And so he's got that bird that's going to go on the wall. He was super, super stoked about that. But anyway, I was going to be down this area, so I called Chance. I'm like, hey, dude, like, yeah, I'm going to be down here. Not sure if you're going to be around. And, maybe, come see you guys for dinner, all that stuff. And he's like, dude, why don't you bring your bow and we'll go chase Aoudad? Well, it took me about 2 seconds to get yes, when, and where, and how, and all my questions out because I was so excited because I had never done this before. He lined up the property. He lined up everything. He had actually hunted them the year before, talked about how challenging they were to spot and stalk, the terrain that you're in, the heat that you're in, everything like that. And he's like, man, like I really think that you'd love it. We'll go out hunt together. And it was awesome. It was so awesome. It was very challenging from the aspect of it threw a lot of things at me that I had not hunted in before. So I had not hunted in 95 plus degree heat. That kicked my tail. I had not really hunted at all in like these rock shelves, on these hills, and this is in West Texas now, and it was really interesting. Like I don't think of Texas like that. I think of like, oh my gosh, baseball movie. It's gonna come to me. I'm sure you're sitting there in your car, wherever going. You know exactly what movie I'm talking about. But the coach that went back and played in the majors. My goodness, I can't think of. Anyways, that's what I think of when I think of Texas. Flat, nothing, oil rigs, pumping. Like that's what I think of. This was not that. This was gorgeous. It was hilly. It was rocky. It was beautiful. It was really, really neat. And I think for the first day, for sure, I felt like I was a dang elephant walking up and down because, I mean, I just could not figure out how to walk, especially walk quickly on those rocks without making noise. And really frustrating me because I've always kind of prided myself on, I think I'm a pretty decent hunter. And new challenges are always like, it gets me excited because I'm like, I suck at this. I'm going to get better. And just kind of gives me something to work on. And so anyways, let me kind of break down the hunt for you, because I know this is different than dogs, but I'm going to show you how this wraps into my dogs. So from the hunt, I took Strike and Brock with me. It's very difficult for me to choose what dogs go on what hunts. Having 5 stud dogs that I have to try to be hunting all the time. And then Whitney has her dogs. She kind of designates that she's going to try to get hunt. It is really hard to choose because when I make a trip like this, I don't want to bring 5-6 dogs. I want to bring 1 or 2 just because of the convenience, the safety. I can pull them in the truck and the AC. I'll talk about that here in a little bit if I have to. I can't do that when I've got the trailer and everything else. And just pulling the trailer is just hard. You go through tolls, it's twice as expensive. You can't turn around, you can't park. It's just more difficult. So, anyways, narrowed it down to Brock and Strike. They were going to come with me from Kansas, so they came down, and it was so nice to hunt. But this is why I love archery hunting so much. It just lets me take a breath and do something I love to do that doesn't revolve around work. And I know I have the best job in the world. I get to hunt with my dogs, get to work with my dogs all day. Boo-hoo, yo-you. But it is work. It's just like anything else. And so, for me, archery hunting is that release. Like it's my me time, right? So, I get down. I'll break down the hunt for you. So first day, it was a lot of me, feeling like I am uncoordinated and noisy and, trying to figure out how this whole thing works. And, it was difficult, but, we found our first group of Aoudad. We were actually able to make a move and get very close to them. They actually ended up coming by us at, 20 yards, some of them inside 20 yards, but they were all ewes and lambs and a couple young rams that they just weren't mature enough. And I'm very picky on killing mature animals. I just think for a number of reasons, I won't go into that soapbox, that killing mature animals is the right thing to do. And so, that's what I really target. So beautiful rams just weren't mature enough. So day 2 comes around, and we're out, and we find a herd, try to get close to it, couldn't really close the gap and get close, then try to make another move, and it was just one of those days that just kind of kicked our tail. And so towards the end of the day, we were kind of feeling a little defeated. Been sweating like crazy. It's amazing when you're sweating all day long. You just kind of forget that you're sweating, and it was towards the end of the day, and we're just kind of exhausted. And all of a sudden, we find a group of rams on a hillside, and there is one ram in there that is significantly older. Like, you could tell just from looking at him. Like, you could see his hip bones. You could kind of see his spine. He just wasn't this like brick shit house like the other guy. These rams are these sheep are just like stout, and he just wasn't. Like, he kind of looked a little malnourished. He didn't look sick, but he just you could just tell he was old. Big, beautiful horns, had the big curl, the mass, like everything you'd be looking for, and like it was like, yeah, let's go after him. And so we're making our move, and we're just unfortunately run out of daylight. And in the terrain that we're in, you try to make moves with the cover that you have, but sometimes you just kind of get to a point you're like, well, he has to make this move before I can make that, and it just becomes this chess match. And just we weren't going to make it happen. We just knew that the wind wasn't perfect for the shortest route. The long route was going to take too much time because we were losing lights. We're like, hey, why don't we back out and hope that he's here tomorrow? So that's what we did. We backed out, and that night, I just get way too excited, and so I was pumped up all night. Is he going to be there? How are we going to get there? What are we going to do? How are we going to make her move? All this kind of stuff. And so I get up and, get showered, get dressed, come downstairs in the house we were staying in. And I go into the room that the dogs were in. And I open the door, and the stench just about knocked me over. And both Brock and Strike had diarrhea, explosive diarrhea, in their crates. Now, potentially could be, stress of travel, could be a number of things, that would make this happen. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, did you guys drink bad water? I'm thinking, is it, Giardia? Anytime you travel, you open yourself up to, cans of worms. So I'm like, oh my gosh, so I get them out. I have to wash both of them because they're both full of it. I have to wash the kennels out because they don't have anywhere else to stay. I got to clean out. So after all this is said and done, I'm now at least 45 minutes behind, and finally get them kind of situated, and just go back, go down, and my high of excitement went real low real fast, right? Because I'm sitting there going, gosh, like now I'm going to be late. Now I'm not going to get there in time. He's going to see me getting in there. This whole thing is ruined. I'm just stressed out. Well, we got out there, and we actually got out there in a decent amount of time yet. We got down, I was wanting to get in there really, really early, but instead we were just really early, which is great. And so got in there, well before light, and, as it was getting light in the valley, it was like we were quickly in the middle of a herd of aoudad. And, so we're looking, we're just sitting there glassing the whole time, and don't see him. We saw a really nice ram, which, was potentially going to become our target because he was beautiful, like just great color, full shaps, I'm sorry. big, yeah, just like, again, everything that you're looking for. I'm like, okay. Um, so we're watching him. We can't make a move yet just because of where these sheep are. And all of a sudden up on the hill, I look up and there he is. He's big, he's beautiful, he's gray, he's like, and so Chance and I look at each other and we're like, yeah, he's the one. He's the one. So we watch him all morning. We try to make a little bit of a move. Can't because we get stuck. There's some deer that are going to come out. So like, shoot, we can't get busted by the deer because these aoudad are very skittish. We watched a deer blow because they went us earlier on in the hunt, and the whole herd just took off. I mean, they really are pretty jumpy, and so we saw the deer coming, stop. Then all of a sudden, there's two, decent rams, young rams, but decent rams come right at us, and so we were just kind of stuck. We just had to hunker down. We had these 3 little spruce trees around us, and all of a sudden my hand feels like it is on fire. And I look down and I'm covered in ants biting the heck out of me. I can't move. If I move, I screw this hunt up. And so I just sit there and I just take it. And I can kind of see Chance like looking over at me because I'm just like, you can tell that I'm just not comfortable. I'm like, dude, I'm getting eaten up. He's like, oh gosh, so he's like looking at him. Luckily he didn't have any on him. We later found out we also got full of chiggers, and so I look like I have dang chicken pox right now because they are everywhere. I want to rip my skin off. So I've got this ointment that I'm putting on, trying to get it off. I've heard the whole clear nail polish thing, and anyways. But beside the point, weather through that, and we get to the point that we're like, okay, so these sheep move on, all stuff, and all of a sudden we can't really see him anymore. Now they're feeding now up the hill away from us, and they're going to go to their bedding area. So we're watching Onyx. If you guys have not seen Onyx, they are not a sponsor of the show, but they're a great app. We're looking on there going, okay, so here's an opening up here, here's an opening that we think they're going to, just trying to map out like where we think we can get to. Great app. It shows property so well. And so we saw him kind of moving away. Didn't see him for a while. Wasn't sure what we were going to do. And so Chance and I decided that we were going to kind of back out, split up, and scout, just see what each other could see. Well, we didn't think it through all the way because we didn't realize we had no service. And how are we going to communicate with each other? So anyways, we split up, and I'm sitting there, and I get to a point that I'm like, this is where I last saw him. If I can just, honestly, if I could just run and get to that next group of trees, which was probably 150 yards. If I could just sprint there, if nobody else, see everybody else kind of out of the valley. I think he's behind this big group of spruce. If I could run and he doesn't see me, and he is behind me, I'm going to walk around that thing. It's going to be a 40-yard shot, in my head. So I'm trying to think. And all of a sudden, I hear a whistle. I kind of look around, okay, maybe it was a bird. And I hear it again. I'm like, what the heck? And it took me an awkward amount of time. And all of a sudden, I look down. There's Chance. Looks like he's doing jumping jacks under a tree trying to get my attention. So I see him, and he's waving me over. So I because I don't know what's going on, get back in the trees, sprint down to him. He's like, I saw him, dude. He's going up to this next opening. We need to get up and around. It's our only shot. That after this gap, he's going to be in the trees, and I don't think we're going to be able to get to him. So we run. And, uphill, hot, carrying packs. I actually ended up dumping my pack because I'm just trying to be quick. Get up there, and I see a couple rams. And they're in the last little bit of this opening. And we're sitting there trying to figure out, is he there? We're probably at 50 yards right now. And Chance's like, there he is. And we're standing right next to him. I'm like, dude, where? And he's like, he's right there. Do you see him? I'm like, no. I'm like, the 2 rams I see are definitely not him. And he's like, he's off to the right. He's in the woods, and he's got his binos up. He's got both his hands free. And he's like, he's coming. He's gonna be walking right in that gap. You gotta kill him there, otherwise he's gonna be gone. And so, I'm looking, and I see I see him moving. I see horns is all I see. I see horns, but the gap is so small. I get ready to shoot, and he walks in there, and I just say, "Are you sure that's him?" And he's like, "Yes." Boom. Like, that's how quick it was. Didn't have any time to think. Yes, boom, done. And man, I didn't know if it was. So after I shot, I kind of looked over at him like, "Are you sure that was him?" And he's like, "Dude, if it wasn't, that's a slammer." But he's like, "I am sure it was him." And so my mind, just because like I was hunting this one sheep, like that's what I wanted. In my head, I'm just like, "Oh, did I just screw up? Did I, is that not the right one?" And I'm just like, sick over it. So, anyways, we go up, and we get in this opening, and you can see the horn sticking up over this grass. This grass is probably knee high. You can see the horn sticking way up. And so we're walking up to him, and it was him. I mean, it was like everything I could have wanted. As far as he's old, he had hardly any teeth left at all. His hooves were worn down so much that it looked like he had like two little nubs, on his hooves. And hip bones melt like we had a guy that had hunted these a lot before, and he's like, man, like he is way malnourished, probably because he can't eat real well. And he's like, this is like the perfect ram to bring out of here. He can't breed anymore. He's on his way down. He probably wouldn't have made it. He's like, and after he said probably, he's like, no, he wouldn't have made it the winter. And it just, like, for me as a conservationist, as a hunter, like, it just made me very, very proud. Like, I felt like I had a tremendous experience. I felt like I did my job as far as the herd management and the right call and everything like that. Like, I love that. I absolutely love that. Nothing against not shooting that. Like, I have friends of mine that just want to go out and shoot meat, and they want, like, I have nothing wrong with that. And this is just me, like, to each their own. This is just this is what trips my trigger. And anyways, he ended up, for those of you that have done this, he ended up being 31 3/4 inches, just shy of 32. And, if you don't know, 30 is a stud. So to be 30, almost 32 is, I mean, that's a giant. And, he was just a great, great animal. And I was ecstatic about him. So, here's what I love so much about that hunt is not the kill. I love the new challenge. I love the new environment, and I loved that I got to do it with a very good friend of mine. And that sharing that experience and that hunt, it was everything for me. I mean, if he hadn't been there, to make the move with me, and he wasn't there to say, like that whole story isn't the same without him there. And I don't think I have the same fulfillment without him there. And that just makes me smile, because it's like this is why we do this, right? It is not about the kill. It is not about pulling the trigger. It is not about, now I'm kind of getting into, like that's one of the things that just irks me about the waterfowl industry is it's like it has to be piles, it has to be limits, it has to be, that's how we get these fights at the boat launch. That's how we get these, tension towards getting fields and permission. That's how we get situations like we had last year with those poor kids that got shot in Tennessee. Like this is just ridiculous. And I just think if we as waterfowlers had more of a passion for the journey, not the kill, the journey, I think we'd be way, way better off. And we as a community would be that much stronger. And I think dogs, to me, are the center point of that. Why do I'd say 95% of you listening, if you're to be honest with yourself, would you even want to hunt if your dog wasn't with you? I wouldn't. When Easton passed away, and if you guys have followed along with this, you know how special Easton was to me. When Easton passed away, I went from waterfowl hunting, at the time probably 50 days a year, to not going for 2. Didn't go out. Had no desire to. That's how impactful the dog part of it is for me. So something else came out of this, though, that it's amazing how often I need to remind myself of this, and it hits me in certain ways. But my next training session that I did, so after I had the hunt, my next training session that I did was one of the best training sessions that I've had all year. And it wasn't because we ran any crazy setup. It wasn't because, I had dogs that lined every blind. It wasn't because of any of that. My dogs were sharper. My dogs were more enthusiastic. And it's not that they weren't before, but they just had an extra edge. And I believe it was because of me. For the first time, probably since April, I didn't have stress hanging over me. My dogs have always, because the training season take the back seat, since April, I've been 70 to 80 hour weeks every single week. And I'm trying to juggle family time. I'm trying to juggle time with the kids. This is no different than you, right? You have your own agenda that you have going on, and you have to have your priorities. Here's what I want to make you guys think about. Think about how your weight gets put on your dog during a training session. I know I've said in the past, like if you had a bad day at work, if you're having a fight with your significant other, if you're if you're just pissed off at the world, don't go train. Those are the easy times to identify it. But when it slowly, gradually weighs on you, it's harder for you to pick it up, but I promise your dog does. It hit me that I had the most stress-free, the most fun few days that I had all year. It's not coincidental that all of a sudden the next training session I see this extra little bit out of my dogs. Because they feel it. The weight is lifted. I'm not stressed. They don't have to be worried about what I'm thinking. And when I say worried, it's not that they're worried about being corrected. It's not that they're worried about, about making me more upset. They just feel it. They felt I was happy. They felt that I was enjoying the day, which made them enjoy it even more. There's a lot of truth to the saying that a dog is the only thing that will love you more than itself. And I think the picking up on emotions piece is a huge, huge part of that. So check yourself. Think about that as you're going into your sessions. If you're seeing issues, if you're seeing this thing that's just kind of nagged on, check with you. I'm not saying that that's going to fix it, but I'm saying it's a very interesting thought. And I think you'll be shocked at when you go into a training session with joy in your heart, how much your dog will reflect that. It's really, really interesting. So, to finish this trip, I want to tell you about another incident. So, we get done. We, skin, cape, butcher, the aoudad, get all that taken care of, and pack our Yetis down, as best we can, because there was no way we were fitting everything in there with these big horns that are sticking out the top. And we make about 3.5 to 4 hour trek home from West Texas to my buddy Chance's house. And so we make that drive and get back. Now we stop for fuel. We stop to eat. We had a couple stops along the way, but we get back and we get to his house, and I pull in. I go to meet him. I'm like, hey, where do you want me to bring my stuff? Just kind of that general meet and greet stuff. Well, when we were driving back, I get paranoid that, especially going through big cities, there's enough of them down here, right, with Dallas and Fort Worth and Austin and some of these big cities, that gets crazy, crazy traffic. In this heat, I get paranoid that I'm going to be stuck in traffic in extreme heat. I won't be able to get out and get my dogs out or, make sure that they're doing okay. I could just get paranoid about it. And so I know I preach that the safest place for your dog to ride is in the crate. This is where, as we were getting closer to these cities, I would, pop out and bring them inside and just let them be in the back seat in the AC. And and I know it's paranoid, but I do think that there's something to be said about that. Like, the last thing you want to do is be stuck in gridlock traffic in extreme heat with your dog in the back, in the crate. It's just not a great situation. And so I felt the safest thing to do is bring them in the AC. So I do that, and we, like I said, take our drive when we get back, and I'm doing kind of my, where do you want stuff, with Chance. He's like, yeah, put stuff here, get settled in here, all stuff. So we walk back out to my truck, and I open the door, and do you remember what happened this morning? Yeah. It looks like someone painted the inside of my truck. Painted. The smell, oh my gosh. And there's, poor Strike with his, kind of head down and, nervous, like he did something wrong. I'm like, like, how can you be mad at that? He's obviously not feeling well, right? Like, something happened. I don't know if if the water didn't agree to him, because obviously he's, new water, if it's just, stress from travel, what is it? Something is not sitting well with him. Now, it didn't make it any more enjoyable because, well, all day yesterday, my truck was at a detailer, and it was not fun. They did not have fun. I did not have fun paying that bill. But like, I mean, I am stuck in Texas. I didn't have any other choice, right? So something that I always carry is metronidazole, and metronidazole just helps with that firm stooling, stool firming. Anytime that I have dogs that I think are stressed out or nervous, or just something is off with them and they have that diarrhea, it's something I carry with me when I travel. It's a great thing to have, just to firm your dogs back up. Now, it is not to hide anything. Like, if I was worried that he did get Giardia, or there was something medically wrong with him, I wouldn't hesitate bringing him to a vet. But a lot of times the travel and stress will do that, and so something that I was able to give them. They have been great since, and they're firm back up, and I haven't had any issues. Now, if I can just figure out how to get the smell out of my truck, and I have, after this weekend, I have 20 some hours back home. So I better get nose blind really quick, otherwise this is going to be a really, really long drive. But just kind of a funny way to end the trip. Going from the low of that morning to the high of the hunt to the low, getting done with it. But yeah, so teal. So hopefully next week, this is what I'll get to talk to you about. But it is Texas Teal Opener. And this is something that I've never got to do before. I'm super, super excited to do it. Some really good friends down here, just kind of, part of the industry that I'm getting to hook up with and hunt with. And, I know Brock and Strike are anxious to get out there and get rocking. And I wish I had Bud, I wish I had Clyde, I wish I had Bracken, I wish I had all my boys. But these two, I'm sure, will do a great job, and I think we'll have a lot of fun. So I'm really looking forward to it. Hopefully I have a good story for you guys here next week. But, just kind of a recap here of my last week, and I hope you guys have a great weekend. I hope you have a great, if you guys are going into teal seasons yourself, good luck. It's hard to beat those little green and blue rockets. I mean, they are just so much fun. So enjoy it. For those of you in early goose season, hope you guys are having a great first part of the season. My buddies back at home are telling me it has not been, but hopefully that changes. So I hope all you guys are doing so well. Thank you so much for spending this time with me, and I will talk to you next week. Thanks for listening. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Leave us a review on iTunes, and a special thank you to Eukanuba, because without them, we couldn't do what we do here, bringing this information to you.